Alright, I'm 7 parts deep into this series, and I'm almost most of the way done with covering the gist of what I wanted to say about this game. Well, let's get into it, starting with Irresponsible Mom. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to air some timely administrivia about the actual recording process that I went through for this video. I actually started scripting these videos way back in August, but I got so busy with my last semester of college that I had to completely drop my Happy Wheels series for a few months. I only had time to make a few playthrough videos. I was finally able to come back in earnest and finish these 3 videos, starting in December of 2020. As you may know, the Flash version of Happy Wheels is no longer available online. Fancy Force took it down on December 28th because Adobe has disconnected support of Flash Player as a platform. Because of this major change to the Happy Wheels ecosystem, I took the month of December to record as much Happy Wheels gameplay as I reasonably could. I recorded gameplay for these 3 character videos, and also for other subsequent videos that I haven't even scripted yet. I wasn't too concerned, because I knew that Jim's team was going to release a compatible JavaScript version of Happy Wheels for the future, and they have done that. Still, I wanted to collect a lot of video for the Flash version of Happy Wheels, because I scripted all of my videos for that version, and I didn't know whether or not there would be any major differences in the JavaScript version that would make it difficult for me to reference specific points in my script. I'm glad that I did that, because the JavaScript version is not so great right now. Fortunately, the physics are impressionistically the same, as far as I can tell. I don't have to worry about the characters controlling differently. But the new version just looks bad. It's 480p. There are some major frame rate problems, even more so than in the older Flash version. This is a far cry from the crisp HD that I've been uploading up until now. Fortunately, I was able to record a lot of what I wanted while the Flash version was online. Inevitably, I did neglect to capture a few important aspects of gameplay. That was an inevitability, considering that I was recording for several videos at once, and most of them weren't fully formulated and structured. I always miss something on my first pass through. I have been able to reuse a few clips from my older Happy Wheels playthrough videos to fill in some of the gaps. I'm glad that I have those. In the month of January, I've gone into the JavaScript version to record the rest of the scenes that I was missing. So you may see some blurry, pixelated clips cut in with normal-looking recordings in this video and the previous one. Those are the JavaScript clips. I also lost the audio for about half of my recordings, for technical reasons that I can't even begin to get into here. Suffice it to say, it's a mess. It's a big mess. I know that it looks weird to switch back and forth between resolutions, but this is the best that I can do for now. Hopefully, the JavaScript version will support HD in the future. Alright, back to Irresponsible Mom. I've never found this character to be necessary. As you can probably tell, she reuses and augments the assets and mechanics from Irresponsible Dad, but I feel that she controls worse, and I prefer the original character. She performs all of the same basic actions. She can go forward and backward. She can pivot to meet different slopes. She stops short when I hit space. She can throw her children. She can use the wobbling exploit to float in the air for a time. But she doesn't go quite as far as Irresponsible Dad. The third wheel makes the vehicle very back-heavy, and it bangs against the trike's frame as I wobble, causing the whole vehicle to lose speed. So, this character's obvious major feature is the third wheel in the back. But what does it actually do? Evidently, not much. It mostly gets in the way. It has a few small uses. I can lean back on the back wheel to lift the front wheel high up in the air. This makes it easier to get the tricycle over high barriers. There's also this cool trick. If there are 2 walls right up against both sides of the vehicle, I can use the rotation of the wheels to apply traction on the walls and push the whole vehicle upward like an elevator. But those are mostly gimmicks. In most levels, the drawbacks of the tricycle outweigh its advantages. I can't even flip over easily without the third wheel getting in the way. If a level forces irresponsible mom, I often try to break off the rear wheel, just so that the character handles more like irresponsible dad. It's easy to do this if there's a landmine just laying around, and a fall from a height can also unfasten the wheel. At the beginning of many levels, there are shapes that wedge into the back wheel and the basket to disconnect them. Level creators recognize that the wheel is a nuisance and decide to get rid of it. At that point, you should just offer irresponsible dad as a playable character. The mechanics of throwing the child differ between dad and mom. JB disconnects from the seat very slowly and gently. He continues to sit on the seat instead of in it. If I roll away slowly, JB can ride securely in this position for the rest of the playthrough. It's only when I accelerate that he stands up and he's more likely to fall out. To throw him, I carry out a specific motion. I accelerate and lean forward, then I quickly lean backwards. But enough of that pansy crap. When Mom ejects the baby, she freaking launches that sucker like a preemptive missile strike. That will surely catch the attention of those harpoon guns and homing mines. This is funny. Irresponsible mom won't even react when her kids die. When JB dies horribly in a mangled mess, his dad will voice a hearty, "Damn it!" But mom doesn't say anything at all. She doesn't seem too bothered. So, Irresponsible Mom has a few vaguely interesting gimmicks, but few levels feature these gimmicks in ways that make the character feel distinct and powerful. I don't recommend using her for most levels. Irresponsible Dad is a more adaptable and well-rounded character. Helicopter Man. He is the 11th and most recent playable character. Jim added him with the version 1.72 update in 2013. It's crazy to think that it's been over 7 years since we got a new character. I remember playing as Helicopter Man when he first released. Mechanically, he is the most unique character. He's the only one who has the native ability to fly indefinitely, and who doesn't rely on any exploit or user-made object to achieve flight. The helicopter can fly right over many obstacles, and go to areas that are completely inaccessible to the other vehicles. It's interesting to go back into older levels that were released before Helicopter Man existed. I found this. His controls are tight and responsive. The vehicle is automatically hovering at the beginning of the level. I don't have to take off from a rested position. I press up to go up and down to go down. If I stop inputting a direction, the craft will continue to drift in its most recent trajectory, and it will gradually come to idle in place. The left and right controls are a little bit more finicky. If I press right, the vehicle doesn't just translate directly to the right. It also leans clockwise. If I hold right, the vehicle will quickly go into a tailspin and crash. If I just tap right, it will accelerate rightward for a short time, and it will straighten out shortly thereafter. But for the time during which the craft is leaning, it tends to veer downward. I press up to compensate for this deviation, and stay on course at my intended altitude. If I'm flying in a big, open area, these controls are easy enough to handle. I can make slight adjustments and stay on my course, within a certain margin of error. It is a bit tedious to have to repeatedly input short durations of acceleration. Basically, I can't ride the vehicle at full speed without drifting off course. The controls force me to go slowly, though I have found a somewhat effective way to go forward at a high speed. From an idle position, I lean the vehicle clockwise about 45 degrees. I then hold up. The craft will swoop down for a short distance. Then it will accelerate up and to the right. Every 2 seconds or so, I briefly lean forward again to make the craft swoop down and compensate for the upward drift. This method can be tricky. It's easy to overshoot the swooping motion and end up crashing into the floor. It also requires a good amount of clearance, both above and below the craft. I only really recommend this method if you're trying to speedrun the level and you already know the precise path that you're going to take, and the path consists mostly of straightaways. So that's how flying works in open air. They could have made it simpler, but it works for what it is. You should be fine if you have a little bit of buffer space on all sides, and you know how to correct your course when you deviate. Flying is more annoying when I'm trying to stay low to the floor. When the craft leans over, it tends to bump into the floor and lose speed. The propellers can collide with walls and bystanders against my intentions, often damaging the propellers. And I don't have many good strategies in that case. Just put some space between yourself and the floor when you can. When you do have to go low to the floor, avoid changing your horizontal direction, if that's at all possible. So, the helicopter has this one set of overhead rotors. This being Happy Wheels, you know that they can do a lot more than just propelling the character. They are very effective at destroying shit. They smash right through glass and cut through bodies. If I hit a character at a specific point, they won't actually take damage. They'll just get whiplashed and fly off in some direction. Alright, bye. This vehicle is quite durable. I can bang the blades into the walls several times with no visible damage. It is possible for the craft's body to break up, but that usually only happens if it takes some especially strong impact that also destroys the blades. The blades do break in some circumstances, which aren't entirely predictable. It happens if I crash into a wall at a high speed. Sometimes I'm drifting along at a moderate speed, but I hit something at a specific angle and they shatter. These metal fragments can injure my character as they fall, but they rarely ever kill him. They do much more damage when they are spinning. If you ever want to just destroy yourself in the middle of a level, you can absolutely do that. Even when the blades break, the helicopter retains an impressive amount of mobility. You can move it across the floor, either by rolling around or by wobbling back and forth, if the landing gear gets in the way. The blades continue to spin when the game is paused, and sometimes there's no audible engine noise. Just no! That's not how time works! You're supposed to be froze! You might say that Helicopter Man can destroy other characters more quickly than Lawnmower Man. Obviously, it depends. Helicopter Man is effective if the character's head is at least as high as the spinning blades, and Lawnmower Man is good at killing characters that are laying on the floor. And I've seen plenty of levels in both of these styles. They're both great, but I still think that Lawnmower Man is the more enjoyable character. He doesn't leave it off at chopping up some pieces and scattering them in the air. He sticks around to finish the job. He freaking emulsifies them. Also, riding in with a whole-ass helicopter just feels like overkill for a dumb ragdoll physics game. I think that it's more interesting to cause massive destruction with a mundane vehicle like a lawnmower. As you may see, the helicopter also has this tractable magnet. Using Control and Shift, I can lower it to the precise distance of my liking. It seems that it can magnetize onto any non-fixed shape other than the vehicle itself. I can pick up blades and random appliances and other characters, and even myself, if I eject out of the helicopter. Look at me! Some objects, like the van, are too heavy to actually lift. Most helicopter levels don't use the magnet for anything in particular. Level designers focus much more on the flying experience. If you do have to use the magnet, it's usually for something simple. Move this small shape from here to there. Some levels pose it as a rescue mission type of deal. You pick up a person at the beginning of the level, and you're supposed to get to the end, presumably without killing that person. I made a type of wrecking ball in my level, Home Wrecker. It works well enough. I made all of the houses very weak, because it doesn't swing with the force of an actual wrecking ball. And if I bring the magnet too close to the house, parts of the roof will stick to the magnet along with the ball. You can play this level perfectly well without using the ball. It makes little difference. You can use the magnet to pick up an arrow gun and have it shoot down bystanders. That's kinda neat. but for whatever reason, I found that non-fixed arrow guns are less responsive than fixed ones. They may not fire upon a target, even if it's right in front of me. Some levels use the magnet in a very creative way. There's a barrier separating it from the rest of the helicopter, and the player is supposed to lower it into a small obstacle course and navigate it up and down past various barriers. For some of these barriers, I have to lower the magnet all of the way to get under it, and I also have to mind the helicopter's speed at the same time. If I'm going too quickly, the magnet won't be able to catch up with the main body. When the line runs out, the magnet will get pulled up and snagged in the corner of a high barrier. So it's good to go slowly and really be mindful about moving the magnet up and down. In some of these levels, I have to pick up a shape and carry it through the course. The magnet and the shape may not fit through a narrow space if they're connected in a certain conformation, so I consider that as well. I try to find a good conformation, and it's possible to move a shape without actually applying magnetism. If the magnet lightly grazes over the shape, I can get it rolling in one direction. So that's where we're at currently. There are 11 playable characters, most of which offer unique playstyles that contribute to the rich variety of Happy Wheels levels. There has been a lot of speculation about what new characters may become available in the future, but I wouldn't count on Jim to release any new characters. The current cast feels very much complete, and possibly excessive. There are multiple characters, namely Effective Shopper and Irresponsible Mom, that are blatantly unnecessary. They don't do anything that's radically better than all other characters, and they come off as Jim's attempt to quickly fill space and sate the player base with new releases when the game was new. Jim occasionally shows off new character art, either in his levels or on YouTube. I don't consider these to be teasers for upcoming characters. Beyond the fact that nothing more has come of these demos in the past 7 years, I think that Jim is just testing and showing off the capabilities of the game's triggers and art tools. You might say that he's encouraging the players to try it for themselves and make original art and mechanisms that appear in place within the game's art style. Fun fact, there was one additional prototype vehicle that appeared in the game for a short time, but that was not playable. In the level editor of version 1.19 of Happy Wheels, there existed art for a motorbike. It's almost an exact copy of the motorbike from the Japanese anime Akira, although the decals appear on the wrong side of the vehicle in Jim's copy. This vehicle obviously isn't finished. Jim didn't even get around to making a new character to drive it. He used Irresponsible Dad as a placeholder. From what I've read about this character, you couldn't select it by simply dragging the widget on the level editor window. At this time in 2010, the widget only went up to 4, so you would have had to click on the number that represents the playable character and manually type in the number 5. I understand that it was also impossible to play with the vehicle. If the user tried to test or save a level with the Akira bike selected, the game would crash. Jim removed the Akira bike from the level editor in the version 1.2 update and replaced it with Moped Couple. They're the official 5th character. Their vehicle is also a near-exact copy of one from a popular movie, but it's a less obvious reference, probably more copyright safe. I don't expect that Jim will add any new vehicles anytime soon, but plenty of users are still bugging him to add more. There are so many levels like this. You'll find them if you search vehicle idea. People come up with all of these weird, unnecessary ideas for vehicles, and they think that if they somehow catch Jim's attention, he'll add them to the game natively. Most of these are clearly pointless, and Jim shouldn't waste his time with them. A unicycle would probably handle very similarly to the Segway, and there's no need for a redundant vehicle. People don't realize that Jim has a methodology as to which vehicles he does and does not include on the selection screen. He doesn't add just any random vehicle that passes his fancy, and his selection process is not arbitrary. In the latter half of the 11 chosen characters, he got more selective. With the exception of Irresponsible Mom, every character since Lawnmower Man introduces some new mechanic that would be very difficult to reproduce with the other characters, or with any user-made mechanism. They all have radically different playstyles. The minecart can go up walls, and the helicopter can fly, and you know already. I've just finished discussing all of this at lengths. If your idea is something really basic like a two-wheeled vehicle that moves like a moped, Jim isn't going to bother with anything like that. That doesn't require any new mechanism in the game's programming, and you can easily make that in the level editor. And at a certain point, the player community have agency to make their own interpretations of vehicles. I've seen a lot of really cool vehicle-based levels. Multiple users have attempted to remake the Akira bike. Though it was never actually playable, we can guess how it might have handled. I think that this is the best one. It's by the Samusturft. Yeah, this is how I imagine it would feel to ride Kaneda's motorbike in Happy Wheels. The speed and the audacity of it feel right. So we don't even need further updates to the engine to push the game forward. We can do a lot of this ourselves. So those are the 11-ish playable characters of Happy Wheels. Thank you for watching. I know that these 3 videos in particular have been quite long and verbose, but I like to be thorough. Join me in the next part for something different. I might do a video about glitches or something. You'll see. Goodbye for now.